In Hilchos Beis HaBchira, the Rambam describing the Beis HaMikdash tells us that the Beis HaMikdash was not on a flat piece of ground, rather it was b'mayla on the incline of the mountain. And the Rambam goes ahead and describes, as a person walks in from the Mizrach gate, from the eastern gate, he would walk until the end of the area called the Chel. He would walk on level ground, on one level. From there, he would go up to the Ezras Noshim with 12 steps, again walking on even level, on level ground. From there, he would go up to the Ezras Yisrael with another 15 steps, to the Ezras Koyanim another step, and finally, with 12 steps, up to the Ulam, which would then be the Ulam, the Heichal, the place of the Kodesh and the Kodesh HaKadoshim, were all on level ground. Says the Rebbe, the reason why the Rambam is emphasizing that it was not on flat ground, rather on the incline of the mountain. Why doesn't the Rambam just say it was on the incline of the mountain rather than emphasizing that it was not on flat ground? Says the Rebbe, we can explain this based on the idea that we know, according to the Rambam, the mitzvah of Asuli Mikdash, that the Eibishter says to make for him a Mikdash, refers both to the Mishkan as well as to the Beis HaMikdash, meaning the Beis HaMikdash is a continuation to the Mishkan, as the Rambam himself goes ahead and specifies about quite a number of things that were the same in the Beis HaMikdash as in the Mishkan. Now the Mishkan was on flat ground, we could say this is the reason that the Rambam emphasizes, no, in this the Beis HaMikdash was different. It was not on flat ground, rather up the mountain. However, says the Rebbe, we still need to understand why the Rambam needs to put such an emphasis on this in the Sefer Halacha, as if we're saying that it almost like needs to be on the mountain. It needs to be up the incline of the mountain, not just a technical thing that happened to be because it's on a mountain, so we need to go up all these steps. And in fact, we need to understand why indeed was it not similar to the Mishkan in this particular way. Says the Rebbe, we can actually explain this by saying that in truth there is a major concept that the Rambam is emphasizing in the novelty of what was the difference between the Beis HaMikdash compared to the Mishkan. And that is, the reason why in the Beis HaMikdash one needed to go up various different sets of steps to go up to different parts of the Beis HaMikdash physically, is because of the Kedusha in these parts of the Beis HaMikdash that were in fact ascending from one place up to the next. In other words, the Kedusha of the Beis HaMikdash had an impact on the physical space, the ground that it was standing on, also in that way. This idea that the very place of the Beis HaMikdash was permeated with the Kedusha, says the Rebbe, we see this in a number of ways. We know, for example, that in our Parsha, it's referred to as Hamokoim Asher Yivchar Hashem. The Beis HaMikdash is going to be in the place that Hashem chose. Hashem chose the very actual place. We know David HaMelech did various different acts to sanctify, to consecrate the Mokim HaMikdash, the place of the Beis HaMikdash. In fact, the Rambam paskins that even nowadays when the Beis HaMikdash doesn't stand, we can offer karbonos in the place of the Beis HaMikdash. We could be eating karbonos in the area known as the Azara. And this, says the Rebbe, is the major chiddush that we had in the Beis HaMikdash that did not exist in the Mishkan. The Mishkan, as we know, was a temporary place. So even though, of course, all the different parts of the Mishkan had a kedusha, the kroshim, the uriyos, the boards, the tapestries on top, of course, were holy. But the very ground the Mishkan was on, that didn't become holy. And for example, when the Yidden traveled away from the particular place the Mishkan was on, there was no Kedusha left in that place. Whereas in the Beis HaMikdash again, the Kedusha always remained even as it was destroyed, because again, the Kedusha permeated the very ground itself. And not only in a general way, but even the different levels of Kedusha that existed in the Beis HaMikdash, and because of that we have different inclines in the mountain going higher and higher. It permeated the mountain in that way as well, that the Kedusha is also in different parts of the Har HaBayis right now, according to the Kedusha that was in the Beis HaMikdash. Again, using the example where the Rambam says that karbonos could be eaten in the part of the Har HaBayis that was known as the Azara. Says the Rebbe, but the problem, based on this we have the problem, if that's the case, why is it that the Kodesh and the Kodesh HaKadoshim were on the same level? Shouldn't have the Kodesh HaKadoshim then been on so much of a higher level than the previous parts, with so many more steps going up? In order to understand this, the Rebbe is going to have a little bit more of a look and the way Chassidus explains the difference between the Mishkan and the Beis HaMikdash. Now we know that in the Mishkan, the way the Mishkan was built is that you have all the way on the bottom, you had the Karka Mishkan, the ground of the Mishkan, which is Doimim, the inanimate. We had then the boards of the Mishkan, higher than that. The bottom of the boards we had was known the Adonim, the sockets, silver sockets, again made of the inanimate. Then comes the boards of the Mishkan made of wood, so that's Tzomeach, that's the plant life. And finally, on top of that, we have the Yeriyas, the tapestries, the lowest of which had some plant life as well, the flax, linen, and then you had the rest of it was made of wool coming from animals, and above that, and other things coming from animals, skins of animals, etc. In the Beis HaMikdash, it's all made of the inanimate. So why is it that in the Mishkan seems to be going in the order? You have the Chai on top, the animal life on top, then the Tzomeach lower than that, the plant life, lower than that, the inanimate. And yet in the Beis HaMikdash, which is the permanent house of Hashem, here it's all of the inanimate, all made of stone. What's the reason for this? Because the Mishkan was primarily coming to mirror, be a reflection of Seder Ishtalshlus, the order of how Hashem's light and energy comes into the world. So it's going down from a higher level, down to a lower level, down to a lower level. It's not so much about permeating the earth itself, the ground itself. On the other hand, the Beis HaMikdash is all about Dira B'Tachtonim. It's all about bringing Hashem's highest level of Kedusha down at the most earthly, Gashmiistic things. And therefore, most of it is made of stone. The inanimate, because it's all about bringing Hashem's Kedusha into the lowest of the low. And therefore, by the Mishkan, the Kedusha didn't enter the ground either that it was standing on. The Beis HaMikdash, on the other end, which is all about the Dira B'Tachtonim permeating the Gashmias, the Kedusha permeated even the ground that it's standing on. Again, the Mokem HaMikdash itself became holy. And it's even noticeable in the physical ground of the Beis HaMikdash in the sense that it's not standing on flat ground. The Beis HaMikdash is a holy place, so it's standing on a tall mountain. And the higher you're going up in the Beis HaMikdash and the Kedusha of the place, so too you're going up higher and higher in the mountain. So this is as far as most of the Beis HaMikdash. Now this is true when you're going from one level to the next level, which are measurable distances from each other. You could say it's going to be expressed also physically by climbing up a little higher. But when we come to the Kodesh HaKadoshim, the intense and great Kedusha of the Kodesh HaKadoshim is so beyond everything else that it cannot be expressed by just a few steps or even many steps going, oh, now we're going up a few different levels. The Kodesh HaKadoshim is completely beyond this. It's not about higher or lower. This is a place where the essence of Hashem himself is being expressed. As we know in the Kodesh HaKadoshim, we say Mokim Aron, the space of the Aron, was not even measurable. And therefore it also cannot be expressed by just making another few steps or saying it's a little bit higher up in the mountain. A final point the Rebbe says, by first having a look a little bit closer in the words of the Rambam, when he's speaking about these different elevations within the Har HaBayis and the Beis HaMikdash, the Rambam, as we see, is not speaking so much about the space of the Beis HaMikdash itself. He's referring to the person. The person, the Rambam says, Ha'adam, the person, as he's walking in the Beis HaMikdash, you go the first space all equal, then you climb some steps, then the person continues walking, then he climbs some steps. In other words, it's mainly connected to the person's avodah. So the person's avodah, yes, he's climbing one level, climbing another level. It's all about his avodah. But when it comes to the Kodesh HaKadoshim, there's no more climbing, there's no more levels, there's no more the person's mitzias, the person's existence. Right now is what we call bittul b'mitzias. The person is like non-existence, completely nullified, and therefore it's not even possible to speak about another physical elevation or any sort of elevation at all, because now it's all about Hashem, it's not about a person at all. In Avodas HaAdam, in our personal daily avodah, the Rebbe says we know that the Kodesh HaKadoshim, this is our level of Yechidah. This is the place where, again, there's complete oneness with Hashem, so it's not about one elevation or a different kind of elevation. Rather, as the expression is, Yechidah li'achdach, our Yechidah becoming one with Hashem.